Okay, welcome back. This should be the last portion of our video demonstration today. And so we're going to be working on this portion of the building. So we've completed really most of the important stuff that's happening on this facade of the building, which is the entrance. But we do have some important elements that are rather important to the design of the building, and they include the window, which is simple. We can do that rather quickly. The solarium and the chimney are going to be elements, and then we want to put a little bit of trim on the building, so we'll look at that in just a bit. So what I wanted you to do is to take a look at at your plan. We're going to be working on, like I said, just the solarium part. And it's not a bad idea to have your cross section here available. And so even though mine is rather light, let's see if I can get the right background here so you can kind of see underneath it here. I can see a little bit. This information that you've already drawn is valid. It's still scalable and still usable. And so we'll want to keep that in mind and easy to refer to. Same thing on this drawing. These heights and these heights should be the same because the object didn't change. It's just the view changed, but its characteristics are the same. And again, another aspect is they should also coordinate with this drawing as well. So we have 3 different drawings showing the same thing. Now that's why we can take the information and put it into this 3-dimensional form. So let's start with the solarium. Just as we did before, what you want to do is think about the object at the floor finish height. Now the seat is going to go up above that a little bit, and we can add that in. But let's line it up with the finished floor profile that's necessary. That means that we're going to trace it exactly as it is on the plan. So we're going to just trace the outline now, remember. We don't care about the inside yet. And we might only need just a little bit to refer to that anyway. So I've outlined it here. And what I want you to be careful of, and many people make this mistake, this unit is offset from the corner. It does not sit on the corner. So if you go back to your elevation, the side elevation, it's not sitting on the corner, it's in. So use the floor plan. The floor plan should give you the right reference. So as you can see, we've got an outline. So what we want to do is project up all the corners. And how far up? We'll get to that in a minute. Just take them up, it's kind of light, and then we'll put it in with more line weight in just a bit. So we're just going to draw it almost up to the roof line, and we're going to take every corner up. Probably should be drawing that as opposed to pushing it, but okay. So there we go. So I got all 4 corners listed. Now, the thing that we want to be observant of is that there are these divisions in this solarium. I mean, there's glass divisions or panels, and we need to use the plan to find those. So again, just like we did before, line up on the corner and give me a light line on every edge corner going vertically. And just take it up, take it almost up to the top and keep it light so we can erase it. Okay, almost there. There we go. Now, that's just the outside of this thing. I'm going to go ahead and get the sides of it just a little bit and take those up also. Keeping in mind that they are rather light. That's good enough for now. Okay, so I've got every edge pretty much accommodated. Now, one of the things that you should observe is that the roof and the solarium roof are the same. They're at the same angle. They're at that 45 degree. So, and I'm going to put in one other quick little note here. I'm a little out of sequence, but I think it's important to do this at this point. If you look at your your cross section and your elevations, you're going to find a fascia board that wraps around the eaves of this house. And so we need to pick that up and make sure that it's on the outside of the drawing. Right now, we just have these really precise little points that are coming out. That's not how it is, because again, that piece right here is that ledger, and we see it in everything. We see it here, we see it here, and just the same as we did down below. So I'm going to add that in real quick. It'll only take just a minute. What we want to do is measure down about 8 inches. Probably could be a little bit more, but let's just call it 8 inches. And I measure that. And I'm going to line it up with my adjustable, but you can measure it very simply by taking it down, putting a point, and adding it in. So that, off that center point, I'm going to measure that just to make sure that we're good. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Making sure my angle is correct. There it is. Okay, so from the top where I measured it, I measured it down 8 inches. I come down here, it's 8 inches here. So, but what you're going to find is this is kind of funny. It's that funny angular distortion that happens. So when I come over here and I measure down 8 inches, I put a mark there. It's going to look fatter because of the angle of projection. And there's my slope. Now, that looks thicker than that. Don't freak out. It's just the optical illusion. It's just a distortion. It is what all paralines do. So when you get to that angle, just close your mind to it. It's fine. But what that's done is that's given me a place to enhance that edge just a bit. And that's given me this point all the way around. I'm going to add just a little bit of oomph right here to make it stand off. All right, so we have just a little bit of thickening here and a little bit of thickening there. We don't have to worry about the backside. We don't see it. What that's done now is that's given us the eave condition all the way around. Well, why did I do that? Because if you look at our solarium, it tucks in right under the eave. So the top of it comes in right underneath there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the profile. Here's the profile. We've seen it again here. It's very similar. We've seen the profile here. We see a similar profile here. Everything's matching. We're just going to follow through with our 45-degree angles to make sure that it makes sense. So first thing is, as I mentioned, we're not on the corner, we're offset. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot my line out here. And that's going to create the box form. It's not correct, it's just a form. Okay. Now I can do the same thing from this point out to here. Okay, so I'm going to clean up a few lines. This thing now has a box form no bigger than from here to here. And everything's going to be carved away from that. That's the box, but we're going to cut an angle on it. Okay, so there's the bottom, there's the top. And I'm going to fix the top in just a minute. Now, to do that, I need to know what the height of this angle is. So I'm going to just measure right on this thing. It's given to me in some other locations. I'm going to do it with this one. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so I measure that. It's like 10 feet, maybe 10 foot 2. It's fine. So I'm going to measure 10 foot 2, and it goes to here. That's the angle change. So that squared off condition at the top, that's not what we're dealing with. that was just to give me some volume to understand the general form. So now, let's see where we're at here. Okay, so we need to be down below that. And, oh, that's why. Okay. Even I, after so many years, miss something and it confuses me. Okay, so at the same angle, remember we said that this angle and this angle are the same. So I lined up my triangle. You could do this with measurements, by the way. I'm just doing it a little bit faster because I have the tools to do that. So what I've done is I've lined it up. And I'm projecting it. Oops, got a little outside my line there. There we go. All right, so that represents the slope of the solarium. What I did was I measured where that occurs off the finish floor, just measured up, and it was about 10 foot. And I drew a line across it. That gave me the boundary, and I know that the slope is the same, so I just joined them up, just like we did when we did this, but in a slightly different way. Okay? Now, with that comes the idea that this has what we would call butt glass condition. That means it's glass to glass. There's not a frame there. So this point right here is very, very slender. And so there's another element that we need to look at, and that's this band. And so that band, we got to measure that band off the finished floor. So I'm going to do that now. And it looks like it's, how high is that? That's 6'8" at the bottom, and it's 12 inches wide at the top. So, starting at the bottom, go 6'8". There's 7, so we're going to go 6'8", goes to here, and then we're going to add a foot, and there we go. So, that band is this big. I measured it from the finished floor to the bottom, and then I measured it again for the extra 12 inches up here, and that gave me the band. So now I've got the bottom at the finished floor. Remember, that's not the bench seat. The bench seat will come in later. Everything's taken, all our measurements off finished floor, then we'll fill in the bench in just a bit. So there's our band going through, so I can kind of erase some of those lines that transition, and then I can wrap it around the corner here. Okay, and I'm not going to go too nuts with it, but it does wrap around the corner on this side too. All right, so far we've got the base, we've got the divisions, we've got the roof and the slope. Now there's a whole bunch of lines that have to be connected, meaning these frame lines have to come up and go at the same angle back, and that's just just going to take a couple minutes to do. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video right now, and then I'm going to come back to it, and then you'll see that I've connected all these lines together. But basically, I'm continuing the lines the same way as they were provided on the elevation. And you can see that with all the elements that we put together, it's just really line work at this point. So I'll be back in a minute rather than consume time on this video. Okay, welcome back everyone. I've finished up the line work here. It was a little tedious and it takes a few minutes, but I wanted you to observe there is thickness in all the glazing and thickness in all the framework that's here. So as you look at this, and especially as you look at the example here, you can actually see the thickness on the solarium, and that's what's been drawn here. The better scores for the work that gets turned in will have those thicknesses taken into consideration. So just spend some time with that and get that correct. Again, I've lifted up the seat. It doesn't sit on the floor. The seat sits up at the same height as the seat next to the fireplace. So that becomes the window seat, if you remember from the floor plan and the section. Then the frame goes up from there, then the band, then I'll call it the angle change in the glass, and then it tucks in up underneath this. So we can see all these are all brought down. They hit that band in the middle, and then we continue those down, and then the plant or the base is still elevated up. And then one other quick note is that if you notice, the edge of it actually extends underneath the finished floor line. So it comes down a little bit further, and you can see that. Here's the finished floor line right here, and it's way down there. It's a foot down below. So keep that in mind as you're drawing it. It's a little complicated, but that's how it is. Okay, so we've done the solarium. Solarium's complete. We have a couple more things to put on. One is super simple. We've already done it before, and that's the window. We're going to put it right there. So we're going to follow that same pattern. We're going to mark it, and I'm not even going to measure it this time. I'm simply going to run the same angle from the window on the other side around the corner. And now I'm going to project up to it. There's one. There's the other. How high? 3 foot for the sill. And then we can move from there. See how quick that went? Okay, so I still have to put some trim on it, and I still have to give it some thickness or offset, but that took almost no time to do. So I'm going to go ahead and put just a quick 4-inch frame on this side, and I'll use the frame wrapping it around from the other side. And so there's that one, and there's that one. And I bring the frame around. I'll add the thickness in just a minute and put the bottom frame or trim in, shoot it across, and there it is. And the top one comes across here like this. And all I did was just bring it around, hit the corner, shoot it back along that edge. Now you can measure it. It's all up to you. But just, something to think about a little bit. Now I'm adding in the thickness. And I'm putting an offset there and giving a little thickness to the frame. I'm doing this rather quick. Again, it's not my finished piece, but it's pretty close. Okay, so that window took maybe a minute or two to do. So that should go pretty quick. The last piece is the fireplace. And the fireplace is a little bit funny because it's in the middle. It's not outside. So we have to somehow get it from inside the building over to the outside so we can go up and we can do different things with it. So now, some of my friends said, "Oh, it's easy. You just measure here and you go up the slope to get there." Yeah, you could try that, but there's some other elements that you're not going to know necessarily. I guess you could measure from here and here, and you could probably get to those points, but you have to be very careful on a sloped surface where you map that out, because it'll be either right or wrong. So I'm going to run you through the method I use, and it works pretty quick. All right, so first of all, again, I start with the floor plan. I look at the floor plan and I go, okay, there's a chimney, and that chimney, just like everything else we've been doing, it lines up with the firebox down below. And the chimney is a 2 foot by 2 foot outside box, or rectangular tube that goes up. So I'm going to make a mark lightly right over the firebox, and I'm going to make it 2 foot by 2 foot. So I'm measuring it now, and it goes to about there in width, and it needs to go, yep, it goes from the front of the firebox to that line right there. So this line, I'm making a small 2 by 2 box so I can project it up and out. Okay, so there it is. It kind of interferes with the window a little bit, but you know what I mean. I centered it over the firebox of the fireplace, and I'm projecting that 2x2 box vertically up. So I'm just going to come up here on all four corners. I'm going to keep it kind of light because I know I'm going to have to erase part of it, but I'm using it to align with. So there we go. So there it is, but we don't know, is it down here? It's unknown. So the way we can find it, you can do it a couple ways. You can project to the outside back wall and come up and find it, or you can find it by coming out to the outside wall, going up the outside wall, up the slope, and that'll give you the point. So here's where we're going to do it. We're going to use that box. It's on the finish floor now. And we're just going to extend it out till we get to the outside boundary wall right there. And we're going to do that for the other line here. They should be 24 inches apart. So 24 inches apart there to there. So I just took it from where it was and projected it on a 45-degree angle to the outside wall. Now I'm going to go vertically up the wall till I get to the roof. Stop at the roof. Okay, so I went out, I've come up, now I'm going to go back along the roof. So we'll line that up pretty straightforward because I'm using, now you could measure and that'll work also. So you could measure from here and then add the 2 feet or the distance that is and go up, you'd be fine. But I'm going to use the triangle because it's a tool and it works well for me. Okay, so now I hit the edge of the chimney and I take it all the way up. I extend the line all the way up to the ridge line. You'll see why in a minute. So same thing, do the same thing here. Go all the way up till I get to the ridge line. Now, the important thing to understand is that in the intersection of this path that I just drew up the slope, which lines up with all these pieces down below, where it intersects with the verticality of the chimney will give us the opening, the precise opening where it penetrates the roof. So how do we find that? Basically, we line up the outer line with the outer line, and it should project at a 45. Oh, there it is, 45. Perfect. And then it needs to do it at the back side too. So we do that. We come over here and we look at it, and sure enough, it lines up. That is the cut hole going through the roof. Now, are we done with the chimney? No, not yet. But we're going to be there in just a sec. There's a couple little complications we need to make because of the view angle is just a little funny. Okay, so that's the hole in the roof. I can erase most of these lines down below it. I don't want to monkey up stuff and make it difficult to see, but understand that here's the firebox down below and it's going up and it penetrated the roof right there. Now, the question is, how tall is it? Well, we could try to measure. I wouldn't trust that measurement. I mean, we could, but there's another way to do it. Remember the rule we talked about. The chimney needs to be higher by 2 feet from any roof that's within 10 feet of itself. And the rule is 2 feet or 2 feet above, 10 feet away. I know it's cryptic, sorry. But the rule means that because I know that is the placement of the fireplace as it comes through the roof, there it is, it's lined up. Now I have to compare it to the actual roof top and go up another 2 feet. Okay, so to do that, that line is lined up, meaning that's where it lines up. Now I'm going to just shoot a horizontal line across that side and that side, just for the fun of it. Just a horizontal line. That means that I have done this. I've put a horizontal line across that peak. Now I just have to be 2 feet above it. So there's my roof line. If I extend it out, and I continue the fireplace up. That's even right there. That's even. I want to be 2 feet above that. So I just come over here, mark 2 feet. That's the top. And I could just go all, actually, because of the geometry of it, I can just go all the way around this thing and make it go pretty quick. Sorry, I had to lean into my drawing a little bit. Okay, so now we are officially 2 feet. You can see it. There's the height. Here's the height, comes across here. That's 2 feet above that height ridge right there. Okay, that's the height of the fireplace. How do we finish the look? We don't need to see the backside because it's behind the fireplace, the chimney. And I'm going to add a little trim, like 4 inches onto this thing, so that it has some prominence. And then there is a hole in it after all. Okay, so I'm coming in here and I'm just arbitrarily setting a width for the opening of the chimney. And there it is. Not quite done. I have to put a little line right there. That says that's going down into it. So this is my chimney right there. I'll put a little meat on that so it has a little bit of oomph. I could go ahead and clean this up just a bit. Okay, so that basically is my chimney and cap, and we're very, very close. Now, so we've found all the parts on here. You are almost done. Just one little thing. As we were comparing the drawings here, one of the things I wanted to point out was the roof texture can give us a lot of information about the drawing without having to say it. And so by having that, I just went ahead and put some tick marks along here, and I'm going to go ahead and shoot some lines across here to indicate the approximate use of roof tiles or some roofing material. And I'm shooting past, trying not to include the chimney in that. But you could see how I'm doing this. Now, the thing is, I'm going to finish this up in just a sec. Actually, I just have a spacing. It's a pretty regular spacing here. When I get to this side, spacing's not the same. Remember how this one's wide and this one's narrow? Well, it's going to flip us because this side is a little narrow. That view angle is going to be a little different. So it's actually going to be a little tighter. Those placements of tiles are going to be pretty funny. So I wouldn't get too hung up on them in terms of precise placements, but just understand that they're tighter on this side than they are on this side. And you could see that in the example that I've got here, okay? And you could do the same thing here. And you're going to find that these are going to be narrow and these are going to be wide, okay? That is what I wanted to share with you today. I think we've spent enough time on this assignment. Next week, we'll be continuing with more Paraline. We're going to be doing a cutaway, and we're actually going to be doing interior axonometrics that have to do with this very same form. So make sure you complete this because you're going to need it for next week. It's essential to getting that done correctly. So as we start to wrap things up, I want you to remember to rough this out first. Don't try to draw it in one sitting. It'll be difficult and you will not be happy with the product. Do provide it with all the labels and all the title block information that are required. I look forward to seeing your work, this completed work. Please do your very best on this because it is your work. This is something you need to take pride in. And until our next class meeting, I'm going to say good luck with the assignment and so long for now. Thank you and take care.